CNN just called and they asked if I would do a segment for them on crying. I guess there's this college football player who broke down and was crying in a press conference, and some people were making fun of him.
I got two little brothers and a mum and dad, yeah, that's the tough part about being here. I love them a lot and I miss them.
I think people assume that Stoicism is emotionlessness or invulnerability or superhumanness or something, but that's not what it is at all. And so I'm actually very excited. This is something I want to address. I'm obviously a man. I have two young boys. This idea that a Stoic can never cry, a Stoic can never be sad, it's just total bullshit. So I'm excited to address this on television. This is about as dressed up as I get these days. Put on a shirt. Test the levels. Crazy. Who makes fun of someone for crying? What kind of a jerk do you have to be? Like, who do you care? It's a kid. He's 19. He's sad.
Let's talk about this with writer and philosopher Ryan Holiday, who hosts the Daily Stoic podcast. He also wrote the book The Daily Dad, a book on Stoic philosophy designed for fatherhood. Ryan, great to chat with you as always. The response that I've seen online to this has been overwhelmingly positive. People have empathized with Wilson, but some are mocking his display of emotion. They've called him a crybaby, a wimp, saying that he should get a girlfriend and just FaceTime his family. Why do you think that this expression of emotion from a young man, a football player, elicits these kinds of responses?
I think it makes us uncomfortable. Maybe we think, would our son miss us that much, that far across the world? The irony of it is that sports are incredibly emotional. That's why we love them. And there's certain kinds of emotions that we accept from athletes, anger. We might even accept crying in happiness. But as soon as it sort of veers into a place of vulnerability, then we get uncomfortable and we judge and we condemn.
I told you last time that we spoke that the next time we would chat, I would nerd out about Marcus Aurelius, and I'm about to do that. Being that you're a proponent of Stoicism, this idea that many of our emotions or passions cloud our reasoned judgment, that we shouldn't dedicate energy to things we can't control. Do you think that Seneca or Marcus Aurelius would tell Archie Wilson to stop crying?
I've got Marcus Aurelius behind me on the shelf, and I know from the historical record that he wouldn't. We have 4 stories about Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, breaking down into tears. A famous one actually involves him as a young man, probably Archie's age. One of his favorite teachers dies, and he starts to cry, and one of the other philosophers comes up to him and tries to tell him to stop, that this isn't manly, this isn't what we do. And actually, the then emperor of Rome, Antoninus, stops the teacher and he says, "Let the boy be human." He says, "Neither empire nor philosophy takes away natural feeling." And we have stories about Marcus crying in grief over an earthquake, over the plague. We even have a story of him crying when he loses the chance to grant clemency to one of his arch enemies. So yes, the Stoics were about not being blinded by or deceived by our emotions. But that doesn't mean they didn't have them and that they weren't human beings. I think there's something different about crying in a press conference because you're sad and then being so debilitated by it that you can't play or that you turn around and go home. And so that's what Stoicism is. It's not the elimination of the emotion. It's the understanding of it, the processing of it, the being aware enough to have it, and then deciding what you're going to do after.
I think some of the chatter online about this specific incident is sort of a microcosm of a larger question about masculinity. And I want to ask you about why you think masculinity has become so political and in some ways a commercial product. These tough guy retreats and boot camps and influencers that peddle a certain vision of masculinity. It seems like there's a demographic of men out there who are responsive to the idea that manhood itself is under attack. I wonder if you think it is.
Well, there's this sort of performative, insecure masculinity that seems to be very concerned with what other people do and how other people live. Even if you wouldn't cry in this situation, why does it matter to you that somebody else who's objectively tough, objectively in great shape, objectively great at what they do, who's courageous enough to move to a new country and play an American sport? It's something we should be impressed by, and instead, I think, instead of being impressed, some people are threatened by that, or they feel the desire to mock it or make fun of it. I am concerned with what I'm doing with my emotions in my life. I don't spend a lot of time that concerned about other people's masculinity. And I guess that is not a common view these days, unfortunately.
Ryan Holiday, thanks so much for joining us. His new book, Wisdom Takes Work, is now available for pre-order.
I didn't get to tell this story in the interview because you only have a couple minutes on camera. But when my son was 6, he had to change schools. This is the pandemic. We were changing from one teacher to another teacher. I remember saying, hey, buddy, are you sad? How do you feel about it? Because I knew he really, really liked this teacher. And he said, oh, I don't care. And I remember being taken aback by it because I know that he did care. But there was some part of him that even at that age, that young, he felt threatened or overwhelmed or uncomfortable with that emotion, and he was suppressing it. I thought, oh, this is where it happens. And so you might think that someone who writes about Stoic philosophy, my impulse would be like, yeah, that's right, buddy. No, I was like, hey, it's okay. If you're sad, you can cry about this. Like, you can be upset by this. This doesn't change that he still has to change schools. I think, again, this is what people mistake about Stoicism. You can have the emotion, you still have to do the thing. You can be scared, but you still have to do the thing. You can be sad, but you still have to do the thing. That's the Stoic part. That's where the virtue of courage comes in still doing the thing. That's what it's about. I'm really glad they had me on to talk about this because it's something I think about a lot. It's something I think about in my own life. There's nothing Stoic about like stuffing the emotions down and pretending that you don't have them. To me, the Stoic thing, the philosophical thing, where wisdom is to be able to process those emotions, to explore what they mean, to decide what you're going to do as a result of this feeling, to allow yourself to be human, as Antoninus said to Marcus Aurelius, his teacher. I just think it's so interesting that we will judge an athlete for crying over missing his parents. But then it's apparently badass when Tom Brady breaks his iPad or, when athletes get in a fight. All of this is losing your cool. And in fact, if there's any sort of loss of control or emotion that I think we want to be more critical about, that we want to put more energy towards helping people curb, it's that, right? It's the getting upset. Because what does that solve? What does that make better? What example does that set? Again, we'll let him cry if they win a national championship, and his punt is what seals the game. But at the beginning of the season, when he's exhausted, when he's tired, he's going through all the stuff, he loses, he cries then, there's something wrong with him. That's ridiculous. So anyways, done. And now I'm gonna go pick up my kids from school. If you want to keep your Stoicism-inspired journey going, sign up for the Daily Stoic email at dailystoic.com/email. It's one Stoic-inspired email every single day. Wisdom to help you with the problems of life. Stoicism is intended, and you can sign up at dailystoic.com/email. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. I'd love for you to join us.